There's a line in the world where people wait 2 years. Not for a visa, not for surgery, to buy a bag. And it's not just any line. You don't get to join it. You have to be invited. This bag is made of leather, metal, stitching, a clasp, like any other bag that exists. The difference? It costs $15,000, and the production cost, according to independent analysts, is $1,200. You heard that right. $1,200 in materials. $15,000 price tag. Now, kiddo, before you think that's just profit margin, every company has margins. Let me show you why this specific number is different from any other business that exists. Because this number isn't about profit. It's about something much older and much more powerful. Think about this with me. You've probably walked through a mall and felt something different when you passed a luxury store. Not necessarily wanting to buy anything, but feeling something. Maybe admiration, maybe distance, maybe a small, almost embarrassed desire to walk in. That feeling didn't happen by accident. It was architected. Every detail of that window display, the lighting, the space between products, the absence of a price tag, was calculated to produce exactly what you felt. The narrative the luxury industry has been selling for over 100 years is simple. Unmatched quality. Tradition, heritage, craftsmanship. A product made with such care that the price justifies itself. It's a beautiful story, and part of it is true. But there's a much larger part that is a deliberate construction. One of the most sophisticated constructions capitalism has ever produced. And it starts with a concept that will seem obvious when I say it. But that changes everything when you understand what it actually means. In any normal business, you produce more to earn more. Scale reduces cost. Scale increases profit. It's the most basic principle of industrial economics. The luxury industry does the opposite. It deliberately limits production, not because it can't produce more, because if it did, it would destroy the only asset that truly matters, the feeling that not everyone can have it. This has a name. It's called the Veblen effect. Unlike any ordinary product, where a high price reduces demand, with Veblen goods, a high price increases demand. The more expensive the bag, the more people want it, not despite the price, because of the price. The price isn't a consequence of value. The price is the product. And when you understand that, you realize the luxury industry isn't in the business of selling objects. It's in the business of selling distance, social distance, separation, the feeling of having arrived somewhere not everyone gets to go. The bag is just the physical object that carries that distance. And now go back to the number I gave you at the beginning. $1,200 in cost, $15,000 in price. I said that number was going to explain something far stranger than profit. What it explains is this. There's a company, the most coveted on the planet right now, that figured out how to use that price gap not just to sell a bag, but to create a selection system so powerful that it accidentally turned a leather bag into a financial asset that outperforms gold. That company is Hermès, and what it did is unlike anything any other luxury brand has ever done. But before we get there, you need to understand who built the machine that controls everything else. In 1989, a man named Bernard Arnault did something no one in the fashion industry had done before. He didn't create a brand, he bought several, and transformed what was a fragmented sector of families, ateliers, and traditions into a corporation. Today, LVMH controls 75 brands. Louis Vuitton, Dior, Givenchy, Bulgari, Tiffany, Dom Perignon, Tag Heuer, $420 billion in market value. At various points over the last decade, Arnault is the richest man on the planet. But what he built isn't just a large company, it's a desire infrastructure. And his model works in a very specific way. You buy a brand with heritage. It doesn't need to be doing well. It needs to have history. You remove the original founder, or place them in a decorative position. You inject capital, restructure distribution, and close the channels that were democratizing access. You raise the price, and then you tell the story that the brand was always like this. Loewe was a small Spanish brand virtually unknown outside of Spain. LVMH acquired it, brought in Jonathan Anderson as creative director, closed the outlet stores, and raised prices 300% over 5 years. Today, Loewe has a waiting list. It's considered one of the most coveted brands in the world. The product didn't change that much. The story around it was completely rewritten. Now, LVMH isn't alone in this game. There are 2 other empires running the same logic, the same mechanisms, with different logos. Kering, Gucci, Saint Laurent, Balenciaga, Bottega Veneta. Richemont, Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, IV, TSA, Montblanc. 3 groups, controlling the majority of what the entire world calls luxury. When you choose between a Gucci and a Saint Laurent, you think you're choosing between 2 brands with different histories and different values. In practice, you're choosing between 2 divisions of the same conglomerate. But there's one company that stayed completely out of this game, that refused to be acquired, and was approached multiple times, that remained family-owned, independent, and built a system entirely unlike the 3 empires. It's the most coveted brand on the planet. And what it created is so precise, so calculated, that you can only understand it when you see how it works from the inside. Hermès doesn't sell Birkins. Officially, you cannot walk into an Hermès store and ask for a Birkin. There's no buy button on the website. There's no waiting list you can join. To gain access to a Birkin, you first need to build a purchase history with the brand. Smaller bags, scarves, perfumes, clothing, dog collars. The salespeople, called internally relationship managers, track how much you spend, how frequently, and what your future spending potential looks like. When you reach a certain threshold, which isn't public, varies by store, by salesperson, by season, you are invited to purchase a Birkin. You don't choose Hermès. Hermès chooses you. This creates something no advertising campaign in the world can buy, the feeling of having been selected. And now, the number makes sense. The gap between the $15,000 Birkin and the $1,200 production cost isn't profit margin. It's the price someone pays for the right to belong to a group that Hermès decides who gets into. You're not paying for the bag, you're paying for the selection. This system created a consequence Hermès never planned for. The Birkin resale market grew so large that alternative investment funds began treating bags as an asset class. A study by the firm Bag Hunter tracked the Birkin's appreciation between 1980 and 2015. Over that period, the Birkin appreciated more than gold, more than the S&P 500 index. Not by accident, by design. Scarcity was architected to create exactly this market behavior. And every time a Birkin is resold for more than it was purchased, the value narrative reinforces itself, without Hermès spending a single dollar. But there's one final layer of control in this system, the most subtle of all. And it operates on you even when you're not buying anything. When was the last time you saw a price tag visible in a luxury store window? When was the last time a luxury brand ran a sale? When was the last time you could compare luxury item prices online without having to visit the store? That's not an oversight, not poor communication. It's strategy. If you need to ask the price, the transaction has already begun on ground that favors the brand. If no comparison is possible, value becomes abstract. And abstract is infinitely easier to inflate than concrete. Luxury doesn't sell a product in a window display. It sells the experience of approaching something that always feels just slightly out of reach, even when you can already afford it. But there's a contradiction at the center of this system, and it was created by the system itself. The luxury industry spent the last 2 decades expanding aggressively. China, the Middle East, Brazil, Southeast Asia. To grow in those markets, it needed to become more accessible. To become more accessible, it needed to produce more. To produce more, it needed to outsource. And by outsourcing, it began eroding exactly the narrative that justified the prices. In 2024, journalistic investigations revealed that products from brands connected to the Armani Group and LVMH were being manufactured in factories in Italy that subcontracted immigrant workers under precarious conditions. Less than €3 per hour. To produce bags sold for thousands. The narrative of sophisticated European craftsmanship was being produced under conditions that completely contradict what the brand sells. And what happened after that revelation? Nothing. Sales continued. Prices kept rising. Lines didn't shorten. That says more about the power of the luxury industry than any financial figure. Because when you buy identity, not a product, but identity, you can't return it when you discover you were misled about its origins. Returning the bag would mean admitting that the identity you purchased doesn't exist. The second contradiction is generational. Generation Z, the largest consumer group entering the market right now, grew up with information available. They know a Birkin costs $1,200 to make. They know Gucci outsourced. They know Balenciaga charges $3,000 for a shoe that looks deliberately ugly. And they understand the mechanism behind it. And yet, some of them still buy, but for completely different reasons. Not for social hierarchy, for irony, for cultural commentary, for mastery of the code. The brands felt this shift and responded with collaborations that would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. Balenciaga with Crocs, Louis Vuitton with Supreme, Gucci with Adidas, trying to buy cultural relevance that pure money can no longer guarantee. The perfect irony. By trying to democratize to attract new consumers, the luxury industry is destroying exactly what its existing consumers were paying to have. Exclusivity. It's a contradiction with no clean exit, and it's the biggest strategic challenge this sector has ever faced. The luxury industry is perhaps the purest example of how value is a construction. It's not about the leather. It's not about the stitching. It's not about the heritage. It's about who controls the narrative of what is desirable, and who gets the privilege of belonging to that group. 3 conglomerates, headquartered mostly in Paris, decided what the entire world considers a symbol of arrival, of success, of social hierarchy. And they did it not through force, not through law, but through a deep understanding of how human desire works. That is power. Real power. Silent. Almost completely invisible. I want to hear from you. Do you own anything from a luxury brand? Have you always wanted to? And after everything you just watched, did your perception change, or does it stay exactly the same? Comment below. This is exactly the kind of conversation I want to have with you. If you made it this far, you're exactly who this channel was built for. We don't make entertainment. We analyze how power actually works, underneath what appears on the surface. Subscribe. Hit the bell. The next videos are going to be even better.